We have mapped more of the surface of Mars than we have mapped of the ocean floor beneath our own planet. Let that sit for a moment. Mars, a planet 225 million kilometers away, accessible only by spacecraft that takes 7 months to arrive, surrounded by a lethal atmosphere at temperatures that would kill you in minutes. We know more about its surface than about the floor of the ocean we sail ships across every day. As of right now, roughly 80% of Earth's ocean floor remains unmapped at high resolution, unvisited, unseen.
And the 20% we have seen has produced discoveries so strange, so consistently unexpected, so fundamentally different from anything on the surface of this planet or any other we have visited, that the scientists who study it have stopped being surprised when the rules break. Down there, the rules break constantly. What lives there should not be alive. What moves there should not move. What burns there should not burn. And the deeper you go, the more completely the world you think you understand disappears. Start with the numbers. The deepest point on Earth is the Challenger Deep, at the southern end of the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific Ocean. Its depth is approximately 10,935 meters, nearly 11 kilometers straight down. To put that in physical terms, if you dropped Mount Everest into the Challenger Deep, its summit would sit more than 2 kilometers below the surface of the water. The pressure at that depth is approximately 1,086 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. 1,086 times. A human body exposed to that pressure without protection would not simply be crushed in the dramatic way most people imagine. The compression would be so rapid and so total that the distinction between crushing and liquefying becomes academic. The bones would not break. They would compress. The lungs would collapse to the size of a fist. Every air-filled cavity in the body would implode simultaneously. And yet, down there, at that depth, under that pressure, in total darkness, at temperatures just above freezing, things live. Not extremophile bacteria clinging to rock surfaces, complex organisms, creatures with eyes, with muscles, with nervous systems, adapted to a pressure that would destroy every piece of equipment humans have ever sent down there unless it was specifically engineered to survive it. The creatures found in the Hadal Zone, the region below 6,000 meters, should not exist by any intuitive understanding of what life requires. The snailfish, a pale, almost translucent fish, holds the record for the deepest vertebrate ever recorded, filmed alive at over 8,000 meters depth. It moves normally. It feeds. It appears entirely unbothered by a pressure that would instantly kill any surface animal. How? The answer involves a molecule called trimethylamine oxide, or TMAO. At surface pressure, TMAO exists in fish tissue at relatively low concentrations. But at extreme depth, pressure destabilizes proteins. It squeezes them into shapes that no longer function correctly. TMAO counteracts this. It stabilizes protein structures under compression, and deep-sea fish produce more of it the deeper they live. A linear relationship, depth versus TMAO concentration, so consistent that some researchers have used it to predict the maximum possible depth at which fish can survive. The physics of protein stability sets an absolute ceiling at approximately 8,200 meters. Above that ceiling, enough TMAO can be produced to stabilize the proteins. Below it, the required concentration of TMAO would itself become toxic. The ocean has a depth limit for vertebrate life, and the snailfish lives right at the edge of it. Not by accident, exactly there. As if something had been pushed as far as physics allows and stopped precisely at the boundary. In 1977, a submersible named Alvin descended into the Galapagos Rift Zone in the Pacific Ocean on a geology mission. The scientists aboard were looking for evidence of hydrothermal activity, warm water venting through cracks in the ocean floor. They expected to find warm water and perhaps some mineral deposits. What they found instead was one of the most significant biological discoveries of the 20th century. Clustered around vents in the ocean floor, in total darkness, at depths where no photosynthesis was possible, were entire ecosystems. Dense, thriving, productive ecosystems. Giant tube worms up to 2 meters long, clams the size of dinner plates, crabs, shrimp, fish, a food web operating at full complexity, with no sunlight, none. Every assumption about what life requires was built on the fact that energy enters ecosystems from the sun. Photosynthesis converts light to chemical energy. Plants are eaten by animals. The chain proceeds. At hydrothermal vents, none of that applies. The energy source is the Earth itself. Hydrogen sulfide pours out of the vents at temperatures that would cook conventional biology. Bacteria oxidize the sulfide, chemosynthesis rather than photosynthesis, and those bacteria form the base of the food web. Everything above them runs on chemical energy from the planet's interior. The sun is irrelevant. The discovery did not just expand the definition of a habitable environment, it destroyed the assumption that life requires sunlight. And with it, it opened the possibility that every ocean-bearing body in the solar system, Europa, Enceladus, Titan, might host ecosystems that have never seen starlight and don't need to.
Here is something that should sound impossible. At hydrothermal vents called black smokers, water exits the seafloor at temperatures of up to 400 degrees Celsius. 400 degrees. The boiling point of water at sea level is 100 degrees. At 400 degrees, water should have turned to steam long before it reaches that temperature. But it does not. Because at the pressure found at those depths, several hundred atmospheres, water cannot boil. The boiling point is pushed far above 400 degrees by the weight of the ocean above. So the water remains liquid, superheated to temperatures that would reduce it to steam at any surface pressure, flowing out of the seafloor in dense black plumes of suspended mineral particles, the smoke that gives black smokers their name. The minerals precipitate instantly as the superheated water contacts the near-freezing ambient ocean, building chimneys of sulfide minerals that can grow at rates of up to 30 centimeters per day. Some of these chimneys reach heights of 60 meters. Tall as a 20-story building, growing in the dark at the bottom of the ocean, and clustered around their bases, living in water that ranges from near boiling at the vent to near freezing centimeters away, organisms that have adapted to function across a thermal gradient that spans more than 300 degrees Celsius within a space you could cross in a few steps. Turn off the lights. That is the default state of 95% of the ocean's volume. Below approximately 200 meters, sunlight does not penetrate. The ocean is dark. Completely, absolutely, permanently dark. Except that it is not, because an estimated 76% of deep-sea species produce their own light. Bioluminescence, the generation of light through chemical reactions, is the most common form of communication in the ocean, and possibly on Earth, given how much of the planet's surface is covered by deep water. The mechanisms vary. Some organisms use symbiotic bacteria that live in specialized light organs. Some produce light through direct enzyme-catalyzed reactions. Some can generate flashes bright enough to be visible from a significant distance in what is otherwise absolute darkness. The anglerfish, with its bioluminescent lure dangling above its enormous toothed mouth, is the famous example. But the range is vastly broader. Dinoflagellates, single-celled plankton, produce flashes when disturbed, creating the blue, ghostly glow that makes waves luminescent on certain nights. Siphonophores, colonial organisms that can reach lengths of 40 meters, making them among the longest animals on Earth, produce trails of light when disrupted. The deep ocean is not a dark void.
It is a space of constant, coordinated, patterned signaling in a medium where light carries no energy from above and every photon is generated by the organisms themselves. An entire ecosystem communicating in the dark, using light as a language that evolved over hundreds of millions of years with no sun involved.
For most of human history, the giant squid was a myth. Sailors reported enormous tentacled creatures attacking ships. Ancient maps warned of sea monsters in deep water. Scientists dismissed the accounts as exaggeration or misidentification. Then, in the 19th century, giant squid began washing ashore dead. Bodies up to 13 meters long, with eyes the size of dinner plates. The largest eyes of any living animal. Eyes that large serve one purpose: gathering the maximum possible light in an environment of near-total darkness. Real, not a myth. But nobody had ever seen one alive in its natural habitat. The first photographs of a live giant squid in the wild were taken in 2004. The first video footage was obtained in 2012 in the deep Pacific at approximately 900 meters depth. The footage showed an animal that bore almost no resemblance to the passive, drifting creatures the dead specimens had suggested. It was aggressive, fast, and investigating the bait line actively. Since then, footage has accumulated, but remains extraordinarily rare. What the giant squid eats, how it hunts, how it reproduces, how long it lives, most of this remains unknown. An animal that can reach 13 meters in length, that lives in the most extensive habitat on the planet, that almost certainly represents a major part of the deep ocean food web. And we have almost no information about its behavior. We know more about the social dynamics of chimpanzees than about the daily life of the largest invertebrate predator on Earth. There is weather in the deep ocean. Not storms in the conventional sense, something more persistent, more patient. A constant, slow precipitation of organic material from the surface layers, dead phytoplankton, fecal matter, shed skin, the remains of animals that died in the upper ocean, drifting down through thousands of meters of water at roughly 1 to 2 centimeters per minute. It takes weeks for a particle to travel from the surface to the abyssal floor. Scientists call it marine snow, and it is the primary food source for the vast majority of deep-sea organisms that do not live near hydrothermal vents. The abyssal plain, the flat, sediment-covered floor that comprises most of the deep ocean, depends almost entirely on this slow rain from above. The food arrives late, diluted, partially decomposed. The organisms that feed on it have adapted accordingly. Metabolisms slowed to conserve energy. Reproduction reduced to minimum rates. Some deep-sea fish live for more than a century. Some sea urchins living on abyssal plains are estimated at over 200 years old. The deep ocean floor is, metabolically speaking, one of the slowest places on Earth. Organisms waiting in near-total darkness for particles of organic material that left the surface weeks ago. An ecosystem running on delay. On the residue of sunlit life filtered through thousands of meters of water and time. Here is a geographical fact that almost nobody knows. The longest mountain range on Earth is not the Himalayas, not the Andes. It is the mid-ocean ridge system, a chain of underwater mountains running through every ocean basin on the planet, totaling approximately 65,000 kilometers in length. For comparison, the circumference of the Earth is about 40,000 kilometers. The mid-ocean ridge is longer than the circumference of the planet. It is the most extensive geological feature on Earth, and until the 20th century, humans had no idea it existed. The ridge marks the boundaries between tectonic plates, where magma rises from the mantle, solidifies, and pushes the plates apart. The ocean floor is being continuously created at these ridges and continuously destroyed at subduction zones, where one plate slides beneath another. The ocean floor is not permanent. The oldest oceanic crust is approximately 340 million years old. For comparison,
Continental rock can be over 3 billion years old. The floor of the ocean is young, geologically speaking, constantly renewed, constantly consumed. And the ridge system driving this process runs unbroken around the entire planet, mostly unexplored, peppered with hydrothermal vents and seamounts and geological features we have not yet catalogued. In water too deep and too remote for routine scientific access.
Wait, here is the part that biologists find genuinely strange. It is not just that organisms survive at extreme depth, it is the specific biochemical solutions they evolved to do it. At high pressure, the cell membrane, the thin lipid bilayer that surrounds every cell, becomes rigid. Lipids pack together more tightly under compression, reducing membrane fluidity. A membrane that cannot flex cannot transport molecules across it, cannot function. Surface organisms transported to depth would have membranes that solidified into uselessness. Deep-sea organisms solve this by incorporating different lipids, ones with structures that remain fluid at high pressure. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, the same ones nutritionists discuss in the context of omega-3s, are disproportionately abundant in deep-sea organisms precisely because their bent molecular structure resists the tight packing that pressure induces. They stay fluid under compression. The same biochemical property that makes omega-3 fatty acids relevant to human cardiovascular health is the property that allows a fish to function at 8,000 meters depth. The solution to the deep ocean's pressure problem and the solution to arterial stiffness in human aging share a molecular mechanism. Biology found one answer to a fundamental physical constraint and applied it in two completely different contexts, separated by billions of years of evolution. The ocean floor is not stable. This is something that carries direct and underappreciated consequences. The sediment that accumulates on continental slopes, the gentle inclines leading from shallow coastal shelves down to the abyssal plain, can become unstable over geological time. Layers of sediment pile up, waterlogged and heavy. Gas from decomposing organic material accumulates in the sediment, reducing its cohesion. And then, triggered by an earthquake, a change in pressure, or sometimes apparently nothing at all, the slope fails. A submarine landslide. Millions or billions of tons of sediment moving as a fluid, accelerating down the slope at speeds that can exceed 100 kilometers per hour. The Storegga slide, which occurred off the coast of Norway approximately 8,200 years ago, displaced approximately 3,500 cubic kilometers of sediment, one of the largest known submarine landslides in the geological record. The tsunami it generated reached Scotland, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. Evidence of the wave is preserved in coastal sediment layers across the North Atlantic. Human populations living on the coast of what is now Scotland were affected. We know this from archaeological evidence of disruption at coastal sites. A slab of ocean floor falling off a continental slope 8,000 years ago, and the wave it created reshaped coastlines across an entire ocean basin. The deep floor is not inert. It moves, sometimes slowly, sometimes catastrophically. Come back to the biology. Because the adaptations to deep ocean life produce organisms that, seen without context, look like something designed to appear as alien as possible. The viperfish carries transparent fangs too long to fit inside its closed mouth. They curve back along the outside of its head. The purpose is to impale prey at high speed in the dark, where a near miss is a wasted energy expenditure that might not be survivable. The barrel-eye fish has transparent, fluid-filled chambers on its head that look like domed windows. Inside, its eyes, cylindrical, pointing upward, can rotate to look forward or upward through the transparent dome. It searches for silhouettes of prey backlit by the faint light filtering down from hundreds of meters above, then rotates its eyes forward to track and pursue. The dragonfish produces red bioluminescence, a wavelength that most deep-sea organisms cannot see, and also has red-sensitive photoreceptors. It is, in effect,
using a private light frequency to illuminate prey that cannot detect the illumination. A biological spotlight invisible to its targets. These are not bizarre evolutionary accidents. Every one of these features is a precisely engineered solution to a specific problem posed by an environment with no light, extreme pressure, scarce food, and temperatures near freezing. The deep ocean did not produce strange animals. It produced optimal animals for a strange environment. The strangeness is the optimality. Here is the practical constraint that makes all of this stranger. The technology required to reach and observe the deep ocean is extraordinarily demanding and expensive. The pressure at abyssal depths destroys conventional materials. Electronics fail. Optical systems must withstand compression forces that would shatter most designs. Remotely operated vehicles capable of reaching full ocean depth cost tens of millions of dollars and require specialized support ships to operate. Research submersibles capable of carrying humans to the deep ocean exist in very small numbers globally. As of recent years, there are fewer than 5 operational crewed submersibles in the world capable of reaching depths beyond 4,000 meters. 5. For the entire planet. In comparison, there are more operational telescopes pointed at the surface of Mars than there are submersibles capable of exploring the majority of Earth's ocean floor. This is not a criticism of space exploration. Both are valuable. It is a statement of proportion. The most extensive habitat on Earth, covering approximately 65% of the planet's surface, containing ecosystems that operate by rules fundamentally different from everything we understand about surface life, potentially harboring species that have never been seen by a human, is currently less accessible to scientific study than the surface of a planet over 200 million kilometers away. We are, in the most literal sense, better equipped to explore the solar system than to explore the world beneath the water on our own planet. And that brings us to the implication that planetary scientists now take seriously. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, has a subsurface ocean of liquid water beneath a thick ice shell. The ocean is estimated to contain roughly twice the volume of all of Earth's oceans combined. It has no contact with the surface. No sunlight reaches it. It is heated by tidal flexing, the gravitational kneading of Europa's interior by Jupiter's massive gravitational field. Hydrothermal activity at the ocean floor is considered likely. Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, is actively venting water vapor and organic molecules from its subsurface ocean through cracks in its ice surface. Geysers detectable from orbit, analyzed by the Cassini spacecraft. The organic chemistry in those plumes includes compounds associated with biological activity on Earth. Titan has a liquid hydrocarbon ocean on its surface and may have a subsurface water ocean as well. All of these environments share key features with the deep ocean floor of Earth. Darkness, high pressure, chemical energy from geological processes, isolation from sunlight. And we now know, because of what Alvin found in 1977 and everything that followed, that these conditions are not barriers to life. They are exactly the conditions under which some of the most tenacious and productive ecosystems on Earth operate. The discovery of hydrothermal vent life did not just change what we knew about our own ocean. It changed the probability estimate for life elsewhere in the solar system. Every vent community discovered since 1977 is, indirectly, an argument for searching the oceans of Europa. Every organism that thrives without sunlight at the bottom of the Pacific is a data point suggesting that the darkness beneath the ice of a distant moon is not an obstacle. It is a habitat. Here is where we stand. The floor of the ocean on our own planet, the floor beneath the water we use for trade, for food, for travel, that covers nearly 3/4 of Earth's surface, is less explored than the surface of the moon. The ecosystems living there operate on energy from the Earth's interior rather than the sun, have developed biochemical solutions to physical extremes that continue to inform medicine and materials science, include organisms that may represent the longevity record for animal life on Earth, and demonstrate that the prerequisites for complex life are far less restrictive than every assumption made before 1977. The deep ocean is not a featureless, dark void. It is the largest continuous habitat on the planet. It is older than the surface ecosystems we study. It may contain more undescribed species than all surface environments combined, and we have seen perhaps a fifth of it, in low resolution, mostly from instruments rather than direct observation.
The aliens we have been searching for in the sky may have been beneath our feet the entire time. Not metaphorically, not as a poetic comparison. The organisms living at hydrothermal vents are, by any reasonable definition, as foreign to the biology of surface life as anything we might find on another world. They eat rock chemistry. They live in superheated water. They die if exposed to the oxygen-rich environment we consider normal. They have been doing this, unchanged in fundamental strategy, for possibly billions of years. The ocean floor is the closest thing to another planet that exists on Earth, and we have barely looked at it.